Thank you so much for your time, Scott.
Hey, my pleasure.
So, Scott, first of all, Joe Hill really liked how you recreated the 70s because when it comes down to nostalgia, we very often have the tendency, to, of course, remember everything that we feel like is better, was better in the past than it is today. I'm just wondering, what is your relationship with nostalgia? What makes you feel nostalgic today? And what are the things that kind of remind you that not everything from the past was better than it is today?
Oh yeah, I'm one of the least nostalgic people you'll ever meet. I'm with Bob Dylan. Bob Dylan said nostalgia is death. I tend to feel like the brain automatically wants to sort of hold up in romanticized ways, the great events of the past, and it takes work to go back and tell yourself the truth and discover and admit what the truth is about your own experience. But in my case, my childhood was pretty traumatic, and the predominant emotion that I associate with my childhood is fear. That's probably why I became a horror filmmaker.
All
That's
right.
really deep in my own blood at this point. But yeah, in the case of the Black Phone, being a 12-year-old in North Denver in 1978 was a kind of a scary thing. For me, it certainly was, and for me, probably more than some of my classmates. But it was a violent place. There was serial killings were happening all over the place. My next door neighbor's mother was murdered. There was a lot of fighting. There was a lot of domestic violence in my home, outside my home, and I got bullied a lot. I was the youngest of
Oh, no.
13 boys on a single block. So that was all sort of funneled into the Black Phone. My memories of that time in my childhood and Joe's short story are really what the movie is.
But what you say, because as you just said, you grew up in the 70s, when you heard all these, horrible stories on TV, because of course, back then you only had TV that was like, connecting you with the outside world, and so whatever you heard might have had an impact on you as a person, whatever. Whenever you heard, like horrible stories, how did you make sure as a kid and teenager, you don't allow these stories, to control your mindset in a way?
Oh, they totally controlled everyone's mindset. Kids in my elementary and middle school were talking about serial killers all the time. I mean, the Manson murders had just taken place. Ted Bundy had just killed a bunch of women in Colorado and was arrested and then escaped in Colorado. And the story I said about my mother, she was not my mother, my next door neighbor's mother. She was abducted and raped and strangled and thrown in the local lake. I mean, it was like a real thing. There was something in my neighborhood where everybody was just very aware that some psycho killer might grab you out of your bed at night or off the street during the day and kill you. It was just kind of in the air, and that kind of serial killer vibe was new to the 70s. It really wasn't until the Manson murders that started to set in, and the fact that I lived in a place where the Manson murders and Ted Bundy had just happened, and I was that age. It was a part of growing up at that time.
Wow. Scott, seriously, thank you so much for sharing your stories, for your time today. And of course, all the best with Black Phone.
Hey, thanks very much.
Thank you, Scott. Bye.